Welcome to UN House. Our theme for today is Enough of Poverty. Over the last 6 months, we've had a number of significant documents, analytical documents, that give us significant insights into poverty here in Bhutan. We have this one from Bhutan Poverty Analysis Report, done jointly by the Royal Government of Bhutan and the World Bank. And we have another one, Bhutan Multidimensional Poverty Index 2017. This was done by Oxford University, the Royal Government of Bhutan, and UNICEF. And in these documents, we find some very interesting insights into the dynamics of poverty. For example, I'm not sure who's here today from Ha, Thimphu and Paro Dzongkhuks, but you are from the lucky Dzongkhuks. You are from the Dzongkhuks that are doing well. Unfortunately, if you are from Dagana, Shamgang, Mungur, Trungsa and Pemagatsel, you're not doing so good. As we see in these documentations, we have an estimated 8.2% of the population who are found to be poor. Interestingly enough, and you're going to hear a lot about this from Aum Damchae today, poverty in rural areas at 11.9% is significantly higher than in urban areas, where it's just under 1%. So urban Bhutan is doing significantly better than rural Bhutan at the moment. And then finally, in terms of just basic background information, one that is of particular interest to the United Nations, inequality. The Gini index, which measures inequality, has remained almost the same at the national level between 2012 and 2017, between 0.36 and 0.38. That's one of the most recognized international standards for judging inequality within a society. Aum Damchae Dem, the CEO of Bhutan Association of Women Entrepreneurs, commonly known as BAOWE. It started in 2010, and it stands for a just and equitable society in which women recognize their strengths and become successful, empowered entrepreneurs leading meaningful lives as responsible and responsive citizens of this great country. BAOWE works to develop a social consciousness-driven private sector and promote women entrepreneurs at the grassroots level, thereby contributing to poverty reduction, self-reliance and business from a gross national happiness perspective to achieve the economic empowerment of women. With respect to our host, I'm always trying to find new surprises. Of course, it's no surprise to learn that Dr. Karma went to YHSS. It's no surprise really to know that he also studied at Cherry. But I was surprised to learn that he was the abbot of a nunnery in Dharamsala for 2 years. With that, I wish to hand over to Aum Damchae and Dr. Karma Phuntsho.
So, welcome to Bhutan Dialogues. We see this as a forum where we are combining two things. One, the rigor of intellectual discussion and critical thinking, joined with very sincere, open, humble curiosity and yearning to learn and know more about our understanding of development and progress. So we primarily aim to, one, sharpen and refine our understanding of progress and development, two, find something to share with the young people, to inspire them with role models, and three, of course, to bring together partners, development stakeholders to discuss and form a network so we can complement each other, so we can work together rather than working in silos. And it's a great honor for us to have you. And I say this mainly because to me you embody three very special aspects, special things. One, you're a female leader, a woman who is successful. Two, you are also an entrepreneur. entrepreneurship is no longer just an option. We really need entrepreneurship if we were to develop as a nation. You're a successful entrepreneur. 3, you also are a member of the civil society organizations. You are actually a leader in the civil society movement here. So it's really a good, great pleasure for us to have you. In course of knowing you, I would say I have seen you, or I have a feeling that you're both a dreamer and a doer. In everything that you have shared with us, with me, and through BAOWE, you have done quite a lot. You have come very far. So my first question that we always ask our guests is, how did you get to where you are right now? What made you who you are? Are there any special sort of anecdotal experiences you can share that brought you to this stage? What is your story of how you became who you are?
First of all, thank you for having me here, the UN, and also Dr. Carpenter, for thinking that what I have to share might be of interest to the audience. I have to be very honest that before I start these sessions, and I've been doing this quite often, it's quite strange why I'm always nervous. But it's just like, when you get on a plane and then the plane starts shaking and you wonder, what am I doing out here? And that's exactly the feeling. But however, you all have given me the great honor of being here, and I do hope to be able to contribute in a very humble way, whatever my experiences have been. Now, coming to the question of what brought me, what has been my life, what has been the driving force, this I would imagine is what you mean, Doctor?
Yes, yes.
Well, I would imagine that every story begins at the beginning, and mine started as a 17-year-old married to a 23-year-old civil servant, and we had our 4 children. And if you want to know what is the inspiration that drives a person, it is one's children, and one of whom is sitting out there. He's found time to be here. Well, it is not only with me. It is, I suppose, with every mother and every parent, for that matter, that we strive to make our lives, the lives of our children, better than ours. That is what we parents strive to do. Along the way, and I have to get back to the point about my lack of schooling, though it is really becoming quite tedious to keep on talking about that, but I suppose, given the fact that this probably is a new audience, I will again, talk about it, about the fact that, when a woman like myself didn't go to high school and had to do something with her life, without a high school education, it's difficult to get a job. And at the same time, you don't have the resources or the background to fall back on and to begin life, on a comfortable, standing. So, and before I go, Doctor, please feel free to stop me whenever you feel that I carry on. I tend to carry on, So please feel free to stop me whenever you feel that I'm...
No, but do please share what really made you an entrepreneur,
yes,
also
yes.
made you engage in civil society.
Well, then coming to the point of, because the background, I had to let you know the background to understand what are the choices. If you look at the entrepreneur, first of all, you must understand the nature of an entrepreneur is like water. We find our space. You can't restrict an entrepreneur, because that entrepreneur will find their way somehow or the other. And the same with me. So what were the choices with me? What were the options? I did quite a few things besides running a canteen, which doesn't really require much resource. It's a very simple thing to do, and I can see somebody smiling out there. This is the way to begin. That we begin small. We begin the things that we can do within our control, and then from there we grow. And so it started with my potato chips, and then on and on, it just grew. And so did my ambition to want to make something more of myself. something that required a little bit more resources. So I went to the banks, and of course it is now I can understand why the banks refused me, because without collateral, how could you even imagine the banks would support you? But that having been said, it has always been a learning process for me. I think I can say that I've probably been a very fiercely protected mother, and my life in the beginning was all about my children. And it's only later on when they went on to school, boarding school, and when I had some time in hand, I decided that now was the time to do something bigger. And I'm a big dreamer, that I can tell you, and I'm a brave dreamer. I aim, my aim has got no limits. Because what I went about doing is, I went about asking, what is the potential for business in Bhutan? And some friends of mine told me, it's aluminium or steel. Now people in the industry business will understand, aluminium and steel are, quite some of the toughest people are in the street. So aluminium is something that was far beyond my reach and scope. It is too big. But the steel, somehow or the other, I resonated with that. I think I was born to be a pioneer of steel in Bhutan, and that's what I did. I went on to pioneer steel, and this happened out of respect for others. This happened out of my trust in others, and I think that is what touched the hearts of the Indian community in the steel business, who went out of their way to help me along the way to establish myself. So that's how I started steel, and then on it just sort of took on one after the other. And then there's something that I've thought of recently. Sometimes I don't know whether it is greed that drives a person. I don't know whether it is greed that really drives somebody to need more and to achieve more. I think underlying greed is fear. I think fear is the driving factor. Fear is the one that pushes you to secure yourself, to want to do something, that will not topple you or reach you to where you began. I think this is one of the driving forces. And
so fear of failure.
Fear of failure, and failure not for yourself, but for your children. Fear for society, and most importantly for the people you employ. You cannot forget that these people, depend on you for their livelihoods. Their children, their families depend on you, and you have to work hard because you have made a commitment. When you become an industrialist, you take on the role of somebody who is there not only for oneself. You don't work for yourself. You no longer begin to work for yourself. You work for others. So that is, nutshell is mine.
So that leads on to the next chapter of your life. You move on from potato chips to steel, lead the Bhutan Enterprise Limited. But how did BAOWE come about? What inspired you?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, because that was a very defining moment in my life. Because as I was mentioning earlier, that I was so engrossed in self-promotion, in promoting myself, my family, and it really didn't go beyond until such time that I went to the bus parking one day, and there was this lady, all disheveled, and I think she must have fallen because she was crying. It's terrible to see a grown woman cry. And she had a bag of, a plastic bag containing just a few churros and chewing gum, I think it was. So then I asked her, why are you crying? So she said, I have to run away from the Trump day. The officials, we aren't allowed to, sell things along the roadside, and I don't have any other source of income. I have to look after my children, bring up my family, and this is all that I have. So that was the defining moment. It made me, it shook me, and it woke me up from this stupor, this feeling of, self, what do we say? A very selfish person. I can't express this even in any other way. So I thought, here's this woman who's, probably going through a lot of things that I went through, not to the extent that she has, but at the same time, I have now reached a place that I can also do something to help her. So with that in mind, I went to see the Tashtompen, and Tashtompen, with being a very compassionate human being, immediately got around to saying, let's plan on what we can do. So with the Tromde and BAOWE, we have been very successful in having these small little livelihood outlets in the bus stop, hospital, and in Hejo. We have a few outlets that is proving to be quite successful.
No, that's a beautiful story of seeing one individual female vendor and that leading you to start a whole new initiative. But before we get into BAOWE and your programs for poverty alleviation, let me ask you a little more, push a bit more on the business role you have. You mentioned very beautifully how entrepreneurs are like water. That I suppose what you mean by that is they should be flexible, malleable, able to adjust and sort of go around many obstacles. Is it in our current times today easy for a woman to be an entrepreneur? Or was it much easier in your times because there were fewer competitors, there were many opportunities, but today we are now looking at a very different scenario. What is the situation like for a woman to venture into the business world?
Well, I sort of agree with you, Doctor, and I also disagree with you that yes, that the opportunities were probably more in my time because there were less women entrepreneurs. But I don't really agree that it is that much more difficult today because of the opportunities are available through, there's so much of exposure and opportunities available by way of so many workshops. And not only that, it's also the number of civil society organizations that are, that are very strong in Bhutan now. We have a number of civil society organizations that are working towards empowering women, and not only women, but society in general. I don't really think that that would be an impediment. But however, I don't know what would differentiate the times. It could be that people need more to do than we did in our times. What people need today, what we needed and what we wanted, there are some things that are different. And probably, what you can think of as a person, poor person today, if you really look at it, was probably a very rich person in my times. So, it's all a matter of perspectives.
So, one thing that comes up very often in development discourse is gender equality. If you look at the private sector, the business world particularly, to me it seems there are quite a lot of powerful women leading big business houses, whereas some of the state institutions, including the Royal Civil Service, the Parliament, they seem to do very poorly in terms of female representation. So, in your opinion, is there much better gender equality in the private sector, in the business world?
I think we need to understand the nature of the way things are. We are a democratic society, and it is the democracy, it's a democratic choice of the people that will prevail as far as Parliament is concerned. This is my opinion. And as far as private sector is concerned, I think your baseline is too limited now, if you don't mind me saying so. You can't take a handful of successful businesswomen and think that sort of talks for the rest of the businesswomen. This group, and I happen to belong to this group, is a very, very small group now. The majority of Bhutanese women are probably in in rural Bhutan. They are the unorganized sector. So these make up the majority. So if you're going to talk about women, then I suppose you need to emphasize more on their role now. This small group of women who we constitute, are not people who have been, most of us, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but most of us have not been born with a silver spoon in our mouth. We have all struggled in life. We have struggled to get where we are today. But we don't really represent the whole of the town.
You're basically saying that if you look at the country as a whole and not just a select group here in Thimphu, then the gender imbalance still exists, even in the business sector?
Gender imbalance,
if I may,
this is, we are talking amongst Bhutanese. So for me to talk, I think everyone will understand what I'm trying to say here. That yes, we do have a gender imbalance, so to say, but at the same time, whether it's the father who works or the mother who works, everyone works for the children. And that's very important for me, That's important for me, though I'm a person who's fighting for women empowerment. So I think this is a very fine line that defines, what we want. This differentiation and this, what do we say, that's focus on the disparities between women, the gender disparities. I think maybe that is a little bit a cliche in my opinion. I think we need to move forward.
Yeah, let me rephrase my question now then, if you don't mind. In terms of economic decision making, is there as much power in the hands of the women as there is in the hands of the men, both on the state level and household level?
Well, my answer to you from the household level, and I cannot say in general, but from the people that I do know, sometimes it is the woman behind the man. Okay, let's be very distinct on that. It's the man whose salary and whatever he brings home is valued. The value is put to that. But what the woman does at home and the work that she does has got no value. So we need to change that. This is something that needs to be changed. And the fact that this data, because everything is boiling down to data today, is undocumented. We don't have formal documentation. And this is the reason why we feel that, yes, there is a big disparity. I just wonder whether, it really requires a very small tweaking, that we need to have a very good and formal and effective representation in decision-making bodies, women representation. That would be able to talk to the decision makers about the problems women are facing.
But that's exactly
in real time.
That's exactly the challenge we have in the political process, isn't it? With only 6 female members in the parliament, basically 6 representatives of the people in the parliament to voice female concerns.
Yes, I think that that needs to, I don't know, because I'm a person who really values organic growth, and I believe that everything grown organically is more sustainable and is more real. But of course, given the circumstances and the slow, pace, very, very slow pace that is, that is pushing women into the political arena, maybe there needs to be something done. I mean, that is not my area of expertise, so I can't really comment on that.
There's one very interesting data that I found in the poverty analysis report that came out last year, and that is households that are led by women are on average less poor than households led by men. What is your take on that?
Households led by women, because women bring that money home. Then I don't know where it goes. Not all, please. Not all, but I'm just saying that.
But that is a very interesting piece of information in the report, and it does make us ask questions why that is the case. Then the other thing I wanted to ask you about your role in both the private sector and also in a civil society promoting entrepreneurship is how much are the current big business houses, the private sector, doing to promote entrepreneurship? Do they have a responsible CSR policy? Is the CSR of most business houses about building stupas and temples and sponsoring sporting events, or are they really thinking about helping young entrepreneurs also grow?
Well, I think we must be very clear on the fact that building stupas is promoting the economy. Building stupas is providing employment, is engaging people, is engaging society, is permitting people to gather. Having sports is inclusive, is a very inclusive way of bringing in, especially the youth. So I think to just sort of, put it at a very, what do we say, negative connotations may not really be a fact. So, no,
but are the big business houses helping small business houses start up? I mean, of course, they're creating employment to build stupas or heartlands, but that is short term, isn't it? Once this heartland is done, what is left? But are they doing something that's more sustainable?
Doctor, I don't want to get into a philosophical argument with you. You know, you should be the one defending this, not me. Having said that,
you quite well. Anyway, I think I personally think that there is the state, the CSO sector, and also international NGOs who are here to help develop entrepreneurship and start new businesses. And perhaps some of our big old businesses can also play a very important role, not necessarily in giving financial resources, which they probably may not even have themselves, but in terms of sharing expertise, like you are doing for BAOWE, in terms of mentoring people, in terms of giving the hand-holding support young entrepreneurs need. But let's move on from this to what you're doing through BAOWE and poverty, that is the main theme today. You have been working both in the rural and urban parts of Bhutan. On your website I saw an urban poverty alleviation program as well. We know that there are about 0.8% of the urban population that are subsistence poor. So basically, if you look at India's population, about 100,000, 120,000, we have this significant number of people who are not having even 1,400 milligrams per person in a month to eat, so to buy things to eat. And BAOWE has been involved in this. What is the ground reality in the actual situation, and what are you doing? What can other people do?
I think to differentiate between urban and rural poverty, it's a very slim and a very fine line now. Because most of the people who are constitute the urban poor are basically people who are migrated from the rural areas.
Nice.
So, but of course, since you are asking me about urban poverty, one of the things that, in my experience, that can make a big difference in the lives of the urban poor is hope. It is developing respect and trust in each other. This is something, these are very small things that are required, especially for women, to understand that people appreciate who they are, what they are doing. And from the
dignity.
Dignity, absolutely, absolutely. It is about being able to respect each other. Ngaji, Bhavinali, we have, through experience, showcased, these livelihood centers. And women, like the one I was talking about, Srimpida, I mean, these women, they started with really nothing. You were talking about 1,500 per person. Some of them didn't even have that. They really didn't have anything. But after having these livelihood centers, after with the Bafragi interventions, and then also with, of course, Chonde has been a great support on this. With all these government agencies in place, to support and to sort of train these women, now they are quite confident, and I can tell you that these people now already they are very progressive, and they are not looking at staying as in those livelihood centers for very long. They're already talking about moving out. They're already talking about what would be the next step. So for us, this is very promising. And what is so means so much to me is that their children are so appreciative of their parents. And this means everything to me. That they're so proud of their parents that during their holidays they give their parents a rest and dig their parents' place. This is the way it works now.
Give us, there's a lot of the audience here who wouldn't necessarily know what BAOWE is doing, so give us a very quick tour of the programs that you do,
yes.
Both in the urban centers and the villages.
Yes. First of all, you can go to www.baowe.org. So all the information you need is there. But for me to just touch on the few things that we are doing, besides the urban poverty projects that we have, we are looking at rural livelihood development, and that has been possible because through the help of ADB. ADB has been our strongest supporter. We have managed to make livelihood centers in Siamgaon, in Tongsa, in Tashkent, and it's been very effective.
So when you say livelihood centers, what are they like? What are they clusters of women working together?
I'm just getting there actually, in my own slow style, if you don't mind. But if you look at, like, for example, if you're looking at, let's say we're going to go to Lumang in Tashkam. So what is the resource that is available there? It is maize. Maize is in abundance there. So we built the project around maize, and that is making poultry feed and cattle feed. So with the help of ADB, we have built this processing unit, this animal feed processing unit. And what happens there is that actually we invite all the farmers to participate. But somewhere along the line, there are some farmers who are nearer, and then they are more accessible to the unit. And there are some that are a little further now. So they can't really participate. So we are looking into that also. How can we address that issue? But they gather the maize, and maize is processed into animal feed. And they work through a self-help group. They have their own elections, and they elect their chairperson, their finance people. So basically, it is cooperative. This is a cooperative, and it is also registered under DAMC, Department of Agriculture and Marketing Cooperatives. So, like these type of cooperatives, BAOWE has quite a few. And if you want, I could elaborate, but I think that will take up too much time.
So you also have a program called Pelshing and Roram. So can you just give a very short summary of this?
Yes, Doctor, thank you for that. Roram is a credit cooperative. BAOWE is the first credit cooperative to register with DAMC. Again with DAMC. One thing we must understand, there are a lot of opportunities if we know how to align ourselves, taking advantage of things that are available now, so that we don't need to reinvent the wheel and each one thinks that we have to do the same things. We can work, in collaborating with each other, and it's very effective. So Roram basically is a credit cooperative that is put together, is from the savings of our members. Like as I was mentioning, these self-help groups. So they gather their resources, and from that pool of money, that's again loaned to them as and when they need it. Roram is the first step now in credit cooperative. That's only the first step. But as I was mentioning, now our members are very progressive. They don't believe that they don't believe in being limited. They want to grow beyond. And there comes Pelshing. Pelshing is a microfinance institution that, thanks to Tashopenjo and RME, we have been given this certification. And Pelshing is a very, very interesting microfinance, which I don't know whether it's there anywhere else. But however, this has grown organically. So if it does hit somebody else's ideas of a microfinance, well, it has not been intentional. It is just the way that we have grown ourselves.
A lot of people think alike.
Yeah. So great minds think alike. I'm sorry that wasn't. So anyways, with Pelshing, what happens is that, BAOWE, we build the infrastructure. We build the infrastructure free of cost. And then we invite the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, in turn, looks after takes over the infrastructure. Like, for example, I would, case in point, I would probably mention Sring Chotan here, who is an entrepreneur, who is, going to be running the Nangi Aum Bhutanese restaurant, which is, because we have to show in action, by action, guys like us. We show by action. So we have built this Nangi Aum Bhutanese restaurant up in Mutham. Now what is unique about this is that through Sring Chotan's intervention as the entrepreneur, she takes under her wing 20 rural farmers in Sisina and along the way. So Wabandu, and Sisina. So those 20 farmers, they will be supplying their vegetables to Sring Chotan in the Nangi Aum restaurant. She will be processing that as food and also using that as an outlet to sell to others. Now the idea here is to involve the tourism companies, to invite their guests to come to this restaurant and have a meal there, knowing that a part of the money that has been generated will go towards subsidizing food for our students in the nearby schools. So this is the plan. And the beauty of this project is Sri Chodin doesn't have to have stressful or sleepless nights like I had as a young woman, being unable to figure out sometimes when things weren't going well. I don't want her to go through that stress. So she has the freedom of working,
But she has to have the fear of failure, shouldn't she?
She will never feel that I'm getting there. I'm getting there, doctor. I'm rushing over there. I'm getting there. Because we have had experience, we have learned along the way about how we work with entrepreneurs. Like we have given the entrepreneur the full distinct charge, and somewhere along the way, some entrepreneurs, because of the fact that they don't have any experience, and they don't have what it takes, they don't have the spirit of an entrepreneur, so they have failed, and then they have sort of, given up with their hands up in the air. There are some who are so clever that they suddenly feel that, yes, we can do it. Why would I want BAOWE? I'll do it myself. And then they have gone their own way. So here with Sri Chodin, what we are doing is that we are going to have a hand holding. It's going to be BAOWE and Sri Chodin. So BAOWE and Sri Chodin are going to work together. BAOWE is going to use its experience, and Sri Chodin is going to use her experience as an entrepreneur. And failure is not an option.
Will BAOWE have an ownership, partial ownership of the venture?
Well, this venture actually has got no ownership. It is Sri Chodin's.
Okay.
We are partners now. It's Sri Chodin's business now.
I think the audience will have further questions regarding BAOWE's programs later on, but I would like to ask you another question which has puzzled me actually, a point that has come out of the report. And as BAOWE's programs are mostly with agricultural farmers who are landed, it seems, so people who own land. But the poverty analysis report says that only 3% of the landless people are poor, whereas 13.2% of the landed people who have 1 to 5 acres of land, are poor. And this is very paradoxical to me, that you have property and you are poor, but you could actually be landless and less poor. What do you make of it? Is this because of a lot of land being left fallow, people not finding time, or the sort of machinery or whatever facilities they need to make use of the land?
Well, this brings me to what I have always thought of poverty. What do I think of poverty? Poverty is a mismatch between opportunity and potential. This is what I feel. Now, if you look at the landed people, the so-called, we are a matriarchal society. I think, Doctor, you're also aware of that. Mostly, we are not saying fully, but mostly a matriarchal society, which means that property rights usually goes to the girl child. But we must understand that the property that we are talking about so far is scattered, is unproductive. It is actually just rendering a woman custodian. She's basically bound to that land, to that property, and it is her ancestral property. So she works hard for that land, on that land. And whether you are a person who has got 5 acres of land, or whether you have 1 acre of land, if you're not growing anything in the land, it doesn't make any difference. The size of the land has to translate to its productivity. Voila. Now it comes to the fountain effect. Now, if I may, talk about the fountain effect. Now, the fountain effect is a concept that was developed by myself on behalf of BAOWE, taking into account the problems that our people are facing with the lack of volumes required for commercial production of anything. I go to a lot of these conferences and areas of, where women meet with our SAC, SADF, SWEC, LDC Watch, I'm there with so many of these agencies as a member. And there we talk about poverty and about the problems faced by women. And the problems faced by women are more or less the same now. More or less the same, but it is not same. It is not same now. Why is it not same? Because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel where women in Bhutan are concerned. I feel that if consideration may be given to branding, see, it's not about just branding for the sake of putting a logo and that's a brand. The brand has to have a method. That brand has to generate and to create the path that the farmer or the person who wants to benefit, the beneficiary, can follow. So we are talking about this fountain effect. Now, if you look at the symbol, it is actually Thimpa Pinji. It talks about a green elephant. The green elephant signifies the earth. It also signifies the primary producers. And then on top of the green elephant, we have a blue monkey. The blue monkey signifies the entrepreneur. Not entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, which is the method. As I mentioned before, entrepreneurship is like water. We just adapt. We have to go forward. And then comes on top of the monkey, the blue monkey is the red rabbit, and that is the fiery entrepreneur. The person who just doesn't take no for an answer. That fiery rabbit is the entrepreneur. And above the fiery rabbit is the white bird. And that white bird, signifies peace. It signifies media. It signifies space. It signifies the donor. It signifies everybody who becomes aware of this fountain effect. So what in effect we're looking at is answering the requirement of our social, the problem, not the social, the commercial, economic problem that we're looking at with the unproductive lands. So we are looking at the aggregation of produce. So what the farmers do is that they aggregate their produce and supply this produce to the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur who in turn processes and value adds to that and shares a part of their profit with the primary producers, thereby forming the fountain effect. I do feel that not only people in Bhutan, but people, especially outside, there are a lot of people who love the mountains, who love the simple mountain folk. I'm sure when they know about this brand and what it signifies, they will be the promoters. They will be that white bird. They will be the ones who will take this message across and knock on the doors of a person's soul.
Yes, so while we digest this rich imagery of the four friends and your fountain effect, fountain effect program, let me go back to the person again. This is the last question I'll ask before I let the audience pose their questions. You are quite driven. You are, as far as we can see, quite successful in your business, in your CSO activity. What keeps you on top of things? What is the trick you have that you can share with others? Do you read particular kinds of books, or do you listen to particular kinds of radio programs, or do you do something else to keep yourself active, alert, and effective? Couple points.
Well, I think I only have one point. There's only one point, and that point is knowing that we are very, our what do we say, that it's all about impermanence. I suppose that is something that is like really matters to me. Given the few incidents in the recent past and a lot of things that happen that make you realize what life is all about. It's not about things that are material and what can we collect and what can we become. I don't think that is what drives a person. I don't think success can be defined as things that wealth or the things that you can sort of count or you can value. Life is not about that. Success is not about that. As far as I'm concerned, I am actually a retired person from the business world. I retired from there, and now I'm an aspiring practitioner. I follow quite a strict discipline. But, I'm feeling miserably these days.
But I still to get you. Do you mean to say that the awareness of impermanence drives you to seek something higher and more fulfilling? What keeps you going? What would make you strive for better and higher things?
In all honesty, I've realized, and thanks to my teacher, who says that we must be, what do you say, while we strive high, we must be realistic also. So what can I do? What is true for me is the happiness of others. So for me, that is a doable thing.
Yes.
So, that's the way it is, Stella.
So you're saying it's compassion. Compassion and altruism.
Altruism, being aware of one's potential as a human being, and the fact that that you're not going to be in this body forever. And then whatever you can do, you should do it when you can.
That's good. I think making use of the awareness of impermanence and precariousness of life to be productive, to act on now. That's so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech and for answering all those questions. Very inspiring. Actually, I have several questions, but wait for the others. I'm sure they'll be similar questions. You were talking about the unorganized sector and the informal sector. But I can see that many things that BAOWE is doing. But are there some things that can be really done in addition maybe from the government sector, from the bank sector, to help the unorganized? How can we organize it better? How can we help this informal sector from your experience?
I think you have really actually answered the question yourself. We need to organize the unorganized. I think that once we do that, that would happen by documenting data. Yes. We need to do that. And in fact, BAOWE has on too many occasions requested for formal registration of BAOWE as a Women's Development Forum. So we're still waiting for that to happen. Because when that happens, it's not only BAOWE, it can be any other organization, but we need to gather, we need to, sort of congregate under a banner which will look into the issues, women issues especially.
My question is, the World Bank and all these institutions, they cite access to finance as one of the most, difficult challenges that entrepreneurs face. What you mentioned about branding, marketing, access to markets, transportation, having cooperatives and all of this. So is access to finance, I mean, given that we have all the banks with their branches all over the country with organizations like yourselves, is access to finance really the key constraint for businesses? That's my first question. If I may ask a second one. Is a woman entrepreneur better on her own or together with others? Thank you.
That's a question that really needs to be answered. Bhutan is a land of potential and opportunity, and we are wasting our time. I'm afraid I have to say this. The type of soil we have, the fantastic environment we have, the fact that we are, the only carbon negative country, in the world. It has to translate to something. What's the use of just being a carbon negative country and, leaving it at that? We have to optimize on that. That is our USP. We have to use that. We have to use that. And now, if you look at, from the organizations that I'm associated with, just recently, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu of the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh has given us 5 acres of land in Andhra Pradesh to develop a trade center, international trade center. Likewise, we have so many women networks who are ready to, market our products. But we don't have the volumes. That is the problem. We don't have the volumes. We have the land. We have the human capital. Or is it human capital that is lacking? I'm not too sure about that. It needs, something like the fountain effect to probably, shock people into some action. Because once you have a brand, and that brand says that, okay, let us work together, it is not only a brand, it is a method. Let us, see if there is, if there's any strength in this method. Is there something that we can do to use it? And we need to use it. If it is something that can be used, we must use it. Because this is the potential and opportunity we have in Bhutan. There's nowhere else I can challenge that who can grow things so naturally like we do in Bhutan. What we have in Bhutan is unique and absolutely, something that we should all be so proud of. Where we have reached is, thanks to our, their majesties, and we have to all be very, very, grateful and take that forward. That potential, if you leave it as it is, it'll be there only. Carbon negative, carbon negative. Let us do something with the carbon negative there.
The second.
The second one. What did you say?
I was asking whether a woman entrepreneur is better on her own or together with other women.
Yes.
Even with men.
No. One thing I have to be very clear now. BAOWE is not exclusively for women, okay now? We are very open, but somehow the other women are more in need and the other ones are in numbers. So I have to be very clear on that now. But whether women are better in numbers or in by themselves, it depends on the type of business they are in. If they are in the production, manufacturing business, they have to be together. They have to lead. They will be the entrepreneur and along with the self-help group. But if you take the entire group and expect them to work together, that will last for as long as they are friends. After that, I don't know. So, you know, I don't know whether that answers your question.
Before giving you the question, I have something to supplement through my experience working with the ruler. Why the ruler is now facing a lot of challenge problem is that one is labor force and one is skill. That's a problem in the rural area because every educated people, they want to come to urban area for work, for very good decent job. So that's why a lot of gungtong, without honor, a lot of gungtong area in Tashigang and some of the rural area. So because of this is mainly because they migrate to the urban area. So why the people in Bhutan now having a land, having a properties, having land back to their rural area, why they feel poor? It's mainly because of the policy intervention that is required by the government. And another thing is because all are now educated, so they are not much on focus on the skilled and the employment opportunity in rural area. So if the entrepreneurship, here we have Lodel, who work both the male and female. Here, madam is working with the empowerment of women. So we have a lot of to the male support. We have here more than female. So it's very so we have very supported women. So what I'm thinking is my share is we need to bring product to the urban area, not the labor force here in the urban area. So this will a little bit decline the rural-urban migrations. That's what I felt, because when I go to rural area, I feel a lot of places are locked, a lot of houses are empty. Because what I said, they come to town, they have settled here. They are well-educated children who went to Australia and brought land here, building here, and their parents are here. There are a lot of gungtongs in rural area. So this is one. Another question is, what are the intervention faced while implementing the entrepreneurship in the rural area through microeconomic, through policy? What are the intervention challenge issues you face? And another is, what do we have planned in future to develop product from rural area, not the labor force from rural area? Thank you very much.
Yes. So I think before we go, and with your permission, I would like to just introduce my BAOWE team, because they have been very interesting working with us, and it's important that they also be recognized. So Momo, looking after rural projects, Momo, and Sring Private looking after urban projects. Then over there we have Tashi Hamo, she's legal and media. Okay, Namdi is looking after rural maintenance. Yes. And Singh Shodan is our entrepreneur. And then we have Pratap, who's the coordinator for Pelton Group with BAOWE, and Ugin Doji, who's looking at the digitization for BAOWE. So we have everybody very occupied and working with this. Now coming to your, it's very important what you're saying now. In fact, you have really hit the nail on the head. What we must see is that if you ask somebody, you stay in the village, you work in the village, and you stay in the village, you have to make it attractive for somebody to want to stay in the village. And this is the feedback I got from the youth, because I've given them the homework and they have done. Why is it that people are not staying in the village? So here we have come out with these findings. It's a lack of traditional modern housing. Lack of traditional modern housing. We have houses which are not really, comfortable. People want to stay in comfortable houses. Mola. I mean, these are just things that we have gathered together. The other thing is that there's no entertainment. There's nothing happening in the village. No. Why would somebody want to stay in the village when there's nothing happening there? Everything is happening in the towns, in the urban area. So maybe the planners might like to visit the fact that they might need to introduce some interesting things in the villages. Besides only farming and things like that, there should be other things also, like social activities and all that could be. The other thing that, I don't know, I hope this will answer you,
Yes.
is that we have to work with the hub and spoke module now. The hub and the spoke. The spoke will be in rural. They will be the ones that are bringing in, not labor, but it's their produce now. The produce that they grow, because they are the primary producers, and they are the ones we must respect the most. They are the ones that really require everybody's, respect and support. So they are the primary producers. They are supplying to the hub, which is now you can't say urban centers means only in Thimphu and Penciling. Every Zohar has an urban center. So this type of a module, can sort of, I feel will be able to promote entrepreneurship, because we are working with it. BAOWE has done and proven that it can be done now. But it requires a lot of hand-holding. I've learned the hard way that you don't expect a person can be created into an entrepreneur. Even with the best of, advice and whatever it is, it takes an entrepreneur, to not only to be born, but to walk that mile, and to feel the pinch in the shoes before they can truly say, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't know whether that answers your question now.
But how can we keep the labor force in the rural areas? I think that is the key question. Are there any tips?
No, so that's what I was just talking about, making life comfortable in the urban, in the rural areas, Shri. Let's make, it doesn't cost much to make small entertainment avenues, develop infrastructure. These are the things that need, and one thing is, if you talk about, I think over lunch we were mentioning about there's going to be double the population in Thimphu by 2020. I think that's the most.
2027.
2027. Okay, that is like I don't know that whether that means a really pretty picture or not. Because as it is, we all know how stretched we are, and it's not guys like us. My children are grown up. It's my grandchildren and your children that are going to live in places like Thimphu with this crowded. So it's up to you all to make the plans and decisions to sort of decentralize and make living in the rural areas more comfortable.
You mentioned BAOWE building infrastructure in the rural parts. What kind of infrastructure are you building?
Well,
are you building these modern traditional houses?
Modern traditional. We are not into the construction of houses. Ours is the construction of businesses.
But the infrastructure you built, what are they?
But it's a modern house. It's a modern land.
What is it? A shop or a
no, it is
office
no. It is one is the plant is a small factory that produces this cattle feed.
Yes.
That is it's a small factory. I'm a factory woman. I'm a factory girl, so I only know factory. I'm not a girl, by the way.
Always a girl.
Thank you.
Thank you for the talk, and big fan of you, and especially the tangible benefit it has provided to the women, and we can see that in Thimphu especially. My question comes back to the fear factor that you have mentioned. It's wonderful that I have also not looked at the fear from a positive perspective, but however you have capitalized on that and it had worked well for you. Now, we also hear a lot that it is the same factor which is hindering or keeping many from venturing into anything. So I was wondering how could they capitalize on it so that they could use this from a positive perspective to their advantage for their benefits. The other thing, I was also it's a wild thought. We always say that when it comes to our religious affairs, events, there are a lot of people throwing money in it, contributing and all that. So there's a lot of money. Now, I was just wondering, how could we channelize some kind of, that kind of motivation in people to support startups, support those who are venturing into those, so that it helps or benefits the most vulnerable, or in terms of empowerment of women and others. Thank you.
I'll take your second question first before I forget my response. Well, if you're looking at having these pujas and these religious gatherings, I think we are all aware that His Holiness the Chapji has has suggested that people stop using packaged food. So, in essence, he has promoted entrepreneurship, because all those people making these homemade sauce are women. Most of them are women, and they're benefiting from that. So that is a direct benefit from these religious activities that we're talking about. However, with reference to a lot of money being going into these religious ceremonies and all that, I don't know sometimes whether we sort of what would be the word I could use is that we blow things out of proportion. I don't know, whether how many religious ceremonies are going on in Bhutan that would require a person to be concerned. I mean, as I said, I'm an aspiring practitioner. Any form of Buddhism is ambrosia for me, and for me that is everything. So I mean, I don't know whether I could resonate with what you're saying or whether I agree with what you're saying, but you are entitled to your own opinion. And as for the first question, I forgot. Oh, the fear factor. The fear factor. The fear factor is a driving force. It is a driving force now. The fear of losing is a driving force. So that's why when Dr. Kampinsler mentioned, Sing Chodin will not know fear. That is also a very, it is a what do we say? It does mean a lot that when you begin business without fear, you might tend to become lazy. But Sing Chodin's partner will not allow to be lazy. So that's for sure. But I do agree with you also, as far as the fear factor is concerned. See, if I'm going to go to do business out of greed, then that greed is not it's not a driving factor. I mean, I personally, I feel it's not really a driving factor. It's not going to push me and let me spend sleepless nights. I will not spend even a night sleepless because out of greed. Greed is something which is controllable, But fear, that fear keeps you awake at night. As I was mentioning earlier, fear that your people in your industry are going to be without a job. That is something that makes you worried. That really worries you.
A lot of people, greed is just the other side of the coin of fear, right? That you fear to lose something.
So here's the philosopher now.
But I think I know what your point is. I think on both these topics, for those who are just about to embark on a journey, somebody who are about to start something, the fear factor does inhibit them. But once you are in the game, then you have the fear factor which will help you work harder, perhaps. So maybe how the fear plays on somebody who hasn't entered the game yet and somebody who has already come into the game is a bit different.
It is different.
And
one is fear of losing and one is fear of not having. These are the two fears.
Just want to clarify my question, the second one. I mean, I'm not against these religious events or the support that's been generated, but I'm amazed and happy with the kind of support that is coming with. So it's just that whether similar kind of movement could also be created so that there's more support towards that. So I'm nothing against that.
I'm also with Lumis Orji on that front. I think that there is a great deal of spiritual materialism, what we would call spiritual materialism in Bhutan, which could be easily diverted for a much better social cause. Anyway, Dasho.
I do agree with
I know.
I do agree on that.
Having known Aum Damchae for quite a long time, my question is, today we've seen the business side of you, we've seen your spiritual side. What is your fun side? How do you round yourself? How would you like to have fun?
My fun side is I like listening to music. I like writing a little bit of poetry. These are things that I do. I like working in BAOWE. These are my fun things. I don't think of any other. Oh, and I like to see movies. That, of course, is my favorite. Going to see movies.
Well, time is nearly up, but we haven't heard a question from a woman. And that is not right. So
And here's the woman.
we have to take one question at least.
Sneha has to ask.
Somebody, come on. Maybe you have already answered the question before coming here.
Well, I can ask. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for a very interesting discussion. So, coming back to the fact that you have 4 children, it would be lovely to hear about how did you manage that balance between being a mother and being a businesswoman. If at every point you were going to give up on it, what kept you going? And have you any advice for women in similar positions?
My balance actually happened because there was no balance. There was no, it wasn't an option. There was no option. I was a mother person. And as long as my children needed me, I was there. And the day that they grew up and went into boarding, that was the time I really, sort of got into the business of serious business.
So when you were mothering, did that affect your business a bit?
Not at all, because I was a person who used to make chips from my home, and and that really doesn't keep you away from home,
So on that note, we'll wind up the session. Thank you very much again for a wonderful lively session we had. And as always, I conclude the session by quoting some traditional masters. In the last session, I was sharing a Bhutanese proverb. Mirab chigi lori wa meeting sungi judulta. The decision through discussion of 3 middling persons is better than an idea of one with this superb caliber. Today, I thought I will end with a quote from my most favorite Buddhist author, Shantideva, and it is quite appropriate that we cite this. Shantideva says, "Chompa Damchae Kachirte Dini Ringi Nyonang Puen Dete Shinji Yudingi Gawi Dewa Chubacha." I've done an ad hoc translation of that. We make all our efforts for happiness, which cannot be bought even with a heavy price. Therefore, we must enjoy the joy and happiness we can derive from the good deeds of somebody else. And I think we have somebody here who has done a lot of great deeds, and rejoicement is what we should practice. What's that? So thank you very much.